Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our place branding and brand engagement overview. My name is Disa McKay and I'm the brand and creative manager at Destination BC. My role is to lead the brand development for our new iconic route and place brands, working closely with our industry partners. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I'm presenting to you today from the territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. Today, I'm also joined by William Bacher from Destination Think. William is their chief strategist, and he will be leading our brand engagement for the Iconics over the coming months. I'm also joined by my colleague, Imran Gill, who is our destination development manager at Destination BC. I'd like to begin by giving you a brief overview. The Invest in Iconic strategy aims to responsibly and sustainably increase tourism, revenue, and visitation to BC through a strategy that encourages the geographic and seasonal dispersion of visitors. The immediate goal is to use the Invest in Iconic strategy to speed tourism recovery to pre-pandemic levels. And the long-term goal is to create, market, and develop inspirational and globally compelling routes and destinations that capture the attention of the world's travelers and act as a magnet for attracting visitors to BC. Together with you, we want to make all parts of British Columbia even more appealing and in more seasons. To achieve geographic and seasonal dispersion, we're using the integration of place branding and placemaking to create unique and globally compelling place brands that capture our target travelers' imagination, and through destination development, we will leverage these place brands to create remarkable in-destination experiences that exceed travelers' expectations and create positive word of mouth. Today's presentation focuses on the place branding process we are using to develop the iconic routes and places. To create compelling place brands, we have invested in consumer, sentiment, and competitive destination research to deepen our understanding of BC's place in the global tourism ecosystem and in our target travelers' minds. We have created a series of videos to share this research with you. We hope these videos will provide you with interesting insights and a better understanding of how BC can build unique and globally differentiated brands through the Invest in Iconics project. Another key part of the discovery process is brand engagement, where we will seek input from BC residents and industry partners and stakeholders. Today, we will share with you what is involved in place branding and in particular, the engagement process. Today in this video, we'll explain the key phases of our place branding roadmap. We'll provide you with an overview of the brand engagement approach and process, and share the process for developing the industry and resident engagement lists. So here are our proposed iconics. Many of you may be familiar with these iconics by now through our discussions we've had over the past year. The Invest in Iconic strategy is a new way to make BC stand out on the world stage. We want the world to know about the iconics in the same way that they know about the Great Ocean Road in Australia or the Wild Atlantic Way in Ireland. And we are still in the process of validating and finalizing the iconic concepts that you see here. And our brand engagement phase is an important step in that process to help us uncover the unique identity of each place and route. So before we dive into the place branding roadmap, I wanted to start by sharing some of the key elements that make for a successful destination brand. These key elements will help develop globally compelling and really memorable brands. So first, we want a brand architecture that fits and flows. We want to develop a family of iconic brands that are really distinctive from each other, but fit together in a cohesive way while sitting comfortably under the umbrella of our supernatural BC brand. We'll need a base reputation that we can build on and a competitive advantage to differentiate BC from the competition. We also want each iconic to have a unique experience that stands on its own, rooted in truth, so rooted in that place identity and impossible to replicate. We also want each iconic to have a unique personality and voice. And we also want to identify those lead and supporting experiences that serve as motivators to visit and drive the story forward. From an industry perspective, we want to develop brand themes and pillars that the industry can connect and align with and bring to life across marketing activities and channels. And lastly, we want to identify who are those right visitors for each place and route. So here is our high-level overview of our place branding roadmap. So this roadmap will give you an overall sense of the approach we will take to develop the new iconic place and route brands. And for those of you who have developed brands before, this type of process will be familiar to you. So how you read this diagram. On the left-hand side, there are 6 key phases within our brand roadmap. Within each phase, there are multiple subphases and projects, as well as multiple outputs by phase. The vertical bar on the far left-hand side represents both brand measurement and brand management. These phases will take place once we have launched the brands in market, and they are continuous and ongoing. On the right-hand side is our conceptual placemaking roadmap. Destination BC and our regional partners will be working together to develop and refine this roadmap further. We thought it was important to show you both of these roadmaps today, as we are taking an integrated approach to the development of the iconics. But for today's video, we're really focused on the place branding roadmap. Now I'd like to give you an overview of each of the major phases and provide some additional details for each phase. The first phase is our planning phase. This is where we've defined our approach and direction, determined teams and agency partners, aligned with our strategic partners, developed our master timelines and budgets. And so this phase is really ongoing due to COVID and the shifting needs and priorities as they arise. Next up is our brand audit and analysis and our research phase. First, we've done a strategic review of all of our strategy, research, destination development plans, and product documentation, which all came to life in the form of a SWOT analysis for each iconic. We then conducted new brand research across consumer, product, and competitor. And those insights will be inputs into our later phases, and they're especially important to our brand strategy phase. Then we move into our brand discovery phase, where we'll be leading brand discovery interviews and workshops with industry and residents to uncover the unique place identities for each iconic. This will also be an important input into our brand strategy. This is a really important step. And our goal is to create opportunities for input and feedback from local experts from both the resident and industry side. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here, as William will be walking you through this in more depth shortly. So next up is our very important brand strategy phase. This is where all the insights from the brand audit and analysis, the research, the engagement all come together to inform the choices we make in building out the brand strategy for each iconic. All of this will result in a brand platform for each iconic, where we will define the brand essence, the values, the positioning, the unique selling propositions, the reasons to believe, and really define those lead and supporting experiences that will help bring the iconic to life for our visitors. Then we'll move into our brand identity and creative development phase. This is where we'll develop our brand identity and creative strategy for each iconic. Then we'll focus on the creative development and production that will support bringing our iconics to life through our marketing activities across all channels. Next phase is our brand implementation. This is where we'll develop our implementation and communication plans, where we will develop iconic product toolkits to help our industry partners adopt and align to the iconic brands. So these toolkits could include our brand platform, content themes and messaging frameworks, iconic storytelling ideas to help bring the iconics to life through content marketing. We will also develop an industry engagement webinar to introduce the new iconic toolkits and new resources. And lastly, as a part of this phase is our marketing launch, where the iconics are launched in the marketplace. So now I'm going to hand it over to William, who will share our brand engagement approach and process, which is a part of our brand discovery phase.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is William Bakker, and I am the Chief Strategist at Destination Think. I would like to begin by acknowledging that I'm presenting to you today from the territory of the Musqueam peoples. Destination Think is an international consultancy agency, and we work exclusively with DMOs all around the world. We will be leading the engagement phase of the Iconics project. Now, what helped me when I started working on this project to conceptualize how the Iconics fits into the place brand hierarchy of the province, I took some inspiration from Walt Disney Resort in Central Florida. This is effectively a DMO, but the benefit they have, of course, is that they control every aspect of the place. It doesn't mean that we want to turn BC into a theme park, of course, but there's a lot we can learn from an organization like that. The resort has an overarching brand promise, which is make magical experiences come alive. And there are a number of parks within the resort. For example, you have Magic Kingdom, which is, of course, the happiest place on earth. There's also Disney's Animal Kingdom that offers transformation through adventure. And then there's Epcot, which actually stands for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. And then, of course, they have a few water parks as well. I mean, this is, after all, Central Florida. So different parks offer different experiences with different identities and still layering into that overarching brand promise. And within each park, there are individual lands. And these lands all have their own unique identity as well. For example, in the Magic Kingdom, there is Frontierland and Tomorrowland. Each offers similar products, but because one is set in the future and other is set in the past, the experience is quite different. Big Thunder Mountain in Frontierland and Space Mountain in Tomorrowland are both roller coasters, but because of the different identities of the individual lands, the experiences and the story is very different. Disney has designed these top down. They came up with this overarching brand promise and then carefully crafted each park to fit within that promise by carefully crafting stories for each section of the park and even every building within the park. I look at this structure as a bit of a metaphor to see how the Iconics fit together. The resort would be British Columbia. Each Iconics is an individual park. And then within these individual Iconics, you can have individual lands, and they're represented by the individual places within an Iconic. And then, of course, you can take it all the way down to product level. Now, the big difference is that we can't invent this stuff because these identities already exist all across BC. And that's really what the engagement process is all about. A lot of inspiration came from the Wild Atlantic Way when Destination BC was developing a strategy, and they followed some similar principles. For example, this is some text that I found on one of their brand documents, and you can see that the experience is described in a way that really aligns with local identity. Things like seeing and exploring wild landscapes and seascapes, exploring the settlements along the way, describe the who, what, when, where, and how. The why is something that I've added because it encapsulates everything and it shows how it is unique and differentiating. The combination of the natural environment and the Irish culture creates an experience that is impossible to replicate. Our process is designed about resident engagement, because we need to understand the identity from a local's perspective, but we also want to understand the experiences that the industry offers. We need to know what visitors want and needs as well, of course. If we would only focus on 2 out of these 3 things, then we create misalignment and we might compromise success. We've all heard about over-tourism, and that's really a result of focusing just on what visitors want and then tailoring your tourism offerings to them without really taking into account the residents' perspectives and aspirations. If we were only to focus on industry and locals, then we could end up with no visitors at all because it's just not interesting to them. Or we could only focus on residents and what visitors want, and then we wouldn't have successful tourism businesses. So we want to hit the sweet spot. We're going to have 2 tracks in order to have the right engagements, one with industry and one with residents. We're going to go into a little more detail in a minute, but it is really focused on interviews and workshops. And then for residents, we have a survey component as well. Let's talk about the resident track first. There are a few things we need to figure out. We want to uncover the identities of places within our metaphorical theme park. And as part of that, we have to understand which parts of that identity differentiates and motivates visitors without, of course, losing the local support. Now, in order to do that, we have created a process called Place DNA. We've used this process for destinations all around the world, from a county in Indiana to the Gold Coast in Queensland or Ottawa, a region in New Zealand, but also for places in BC like Campbell River, Victoria, and Abbotsford. Place DNA uncovers the identity of a place. And we say uncover because we don't have to create anything. The identity is already there. And just like every person's identity is shaped by many factors, so are places. And the combination of all these individual factors creates that unique identity. The best way to describe it, how Place DNA affects the product experience, is by using an example of a product that is essentially the same everywhere in the world. So I like to use golf. Golf is the same everywhere. If you golf in Arizona, you're in the desert. It's warm, it's pleasant. But when you're in Hawaii, it's also warm and pleasant, but you're on a tropical island. So even though the product is the same, and it's warm in both places, the experience is probably very different. Now, if you go to Indianapolis, there's actually a large chunk of a golf course inside the Speedway where they hold the annual Indy 500 race. And a key part of their DNA is affecting the product experience. In Scotland, it's different again. It's not just about climate anymore, but now it's about history and heritage, the birthplace of golf. And of course, when you go to a Disney resort, the bunker is probably shaped like a Mickey Mouse. That's a key aspect of their DNA. Our process to uncover Place DNA includes 4 elements. A resident survey that we're running across BC, direct engagement through interviews and workshops. We do desk research where we look at things a little bit closer, or look at some of the fundamental things like the climate or the demographics, history of the area, economic drivers, those kind of things. And then the last one is observational research. Typically, we do these things in person, and we've become quite good at it to look at clues that gives us really hints about the local identity. Of course, unfortunately, we can't travel at the moment, so we have developed some different methods to still get the information that we need. I spend a lot of time on Google Earth, for example. So let's talk about the workshops. We will run a number of workshops in each Iconics. There will be virtual with somewhere between 15 and 40 people participating, and they'll run for about 3 hours. The sessions are designed to get people talking. We have created some very unique exercises to achieve that. Often we have a lot of fun doing them. From a participant's perspective, we don't just ask random people off the streets to join the session. We're actually looking for a specific type of resident that can represent different aspects of the community. On the one hand, we want to have people who have a deep connection to the place. So this can be a mayor or someone from the Rotary Club, a school teacher that's been there for a long time, somebody that represents a specific community, or even the owner of a local watering hole that everybody knows. It can also be tied to a profession, for example, a city planner or an historian, a geologist, a marine biologist, a journalist, depending on where we conduct the session. We want to have people that can really describe the place in the level of detail that we need. And then there's the arts community as well. We find that these people often look at the world a little bit different, or they can describe the place in a different way. Often they are more abstract thinkers, so that can really add another layer and help in the process. The workshops and the interviews are a critical component of this project, and it is really important to have the right people and the right number of people in these sessions. Let's move on to the industry track now. The basic format is very similar to the resident track, except we don't conduct a survey, so it's interviews and workshops. The basic format of the workshop is different to the resident ones. Similar amount of people, similar length, but because we have some different objectives, the exercises are a little bit different, although some are the same. From a participant perspective, we just want to have a good cross-section of the industry, from the big tourism players to small operators, people from different sectors, offering different experiences, and maybe some of those local informal tourism leaders, the ones that are just really connected to the network. I'm going to finish off with showing you some examples of what the Place DNA process looks like. Here's an example of the survey and some of the results. So you can see some of the questions that we ask. One of the questions asks what attributes are important on a Likert scale. In another one, we ask people to choose between two opposites. So it's always interesting to see where there's a lot of agreement and where there's a lot of disagreement. And here are some photos from the workshops that we conduct. These, of course, are in person, but we've worked very hard over the last 6 months or so to translate the energy, the excitement, and the fun that we often have in these workshops into an online environment. It's obviously not the same, but we still get the information we need. And we also make sure that the people who so generously donate their time are having a good time. I always have a lot of fun doing it as well. We've received some really good feedback from the workshops that we ran in Southeast BC. I told you about the different types of exercises that we do to get people talking. So on the left side, you see our theme park exercise. So this is where we ask residents to look at their place like a theme park and then identify what the different sections of the theme park would be and name them. This will provide some pretty critical insights into understanding the differences in local identity, but also how it differentiates from other places around them. And it also gives them an opportunity to poke some fun at their neighbors. And then here are some photos from our observational research. These are from Campbell River, and you can see some of the pictures that I took there when I was conducting Place DNA there. Obviously the influence of the 3 First Nations, the connection to the natural environment, especially the wildlife, is very, very visible in the city. So that's it for me. I'm really looking forward to start the engagement process with the other iconics, learn about all the things and all the places that you represent across the province. Thanks.
Thank you, William, and hello, everyone. My name is Imran Gill, and I am a manager of destination development at Destination BC. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you today from the territory of the Coast Salish peoples. I feel very, very fortunate to live in and explore this beautiful province of British Columbia. As William indicated, industry and resident engagement is vital to capturing the essence and unique characteristics of communities across BC. To conduct place branding engagement for each of the iconics, Destination BC needs the support of our partners. We are working closely with ITBC, our regional partners, and city and community DMOs to create lists of industry stakeholders and residents who may wish to participate in the brand engagement interviews and workshops. The process will encompass virtual engagement in communities across the province. Communities that have similar characteristics or are close to each other in geographic proximity will be placed together and broken off into their own individual breakout sessions. As you can see here, Destination BC scheduled 5 virtual engagement sessions in Southeast BC, with more than 18 communities invited to participate. These interviews and workshops are a wonderful opportunity for people to reflect on what makes their community special, why they or their parents were drawn to the region, and why they continue to enjoy living there. Industry and residents who have participated in the Southeast BC workshops have come away from the experience feeling enthused and energized about where they live. As a part of resident engagement, we will work with our partners to identify up to 60 residents from each community who know the place, can describe the place, and or represent the people, which William spoke to earlier. In addition to the workshops, we will also conduct one-on-one interviews with a few individuals from communities who can bring a community and regional lens to the discussion. I would like to emphasize that we will seek to engage a diverse array of residents. We'd like to hear from a cross-generational mix, see strong representation from BIPOC and underrepresented groups, and have a number of long-term residents with some newcomers as well. Thank you for your time, and now I'll pass it over to Disa.
Thanks, Imran. So in summary, the Place Branding Roadmap has 6 key phases taking place over the coming year. Brand engagement is a key phase in the process, and that will help inform the brand strategy for each iconic place and route. And then lastly, and very importantly, the industry and resident input is vital to the success of this strategy. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this presentation provides an overview of the Invest in Iconic strategy, and in particular, an overview of the place branding process we are using to develop the iconic routes and places. Here you see a list of other available videos, which include competitive destination reviews, consumer research on perceptions and interest in the various iconic routes and places, and social sentiment analysis. We invite you to explore more Invest in Iconics videos by emailing us at iconics@destinationbc.ca to request access to our YouTube video links. Or to learn more about the Invest in Iconics strategy, please visit destinationbc.ca/iconics or email us at iconics@destinationbc.ca. You can also subscribe to our corporate newsletter Directions for Iconics updates sent direct to your inbox. Thank you.